Okay, here we go. Round two. Let's try this again. This time with a fancy new microphone, or at least for me, a fancy new microphone to hopefully resolve the audio issues that were being experienced before. All I was using before was the snipping tool, and I had like a little headset from my job that I use. I had the microphone on that, and it didn't do the job. So hopefully this time it'll be a little bit easier to hear what I'm saying. I do want to apologize in advance because I don't know anything about, or at least right now, about video editing for YouTube and all that. So everything I'm doing is like continuous flow, stream of consciousness kind of stuff. I start recording and I blab until I'm done recording. So I'm probably going to flub up a lot, and I'm going to really try not to say, um, um. As I noticed on the last video, I did that a lot, but it's going to happen. It's just going to happen. So apologies. Sorry. Here we go. I saved a little time on this one, right? Trimmed off a little time by just going ahead and creating the little spaceship shape or a part so we can get started immediately. How I go about making panel lines. Probably not the way the pros would do it, but this is just how I do it. So here you can see in this particular part, we've got, we've got these flat sides that we can put panel lines on, and then we've got this rounded section. First, I'm going to address one of the flat sides. Let's start with this large side. I'm going to create a sketch on it. I'm going to start drawing my panel lines. And something I want to show you that's really cool that I like about Onshape is when you start drawing lines, if you want to align to another point, as I'm in the line creation here, and I can go anywhere with it, right? I can just mouse over any particular point, and look what it does. It creates a little dotted line to keep me in alignment with that point. So it could be this point here, and obviously it'll disappear if I go too far. But for this particular line, I want it to be aligned with this, let's say. So I'm going to click there, and now I can finish by clicking that point. I do this a lot when I'm modeling in Onshape. I really like to use other points as reference, so I know that I've got my alignment right. It's very helpful. I can do the same thing here, right? So I'm just going to line that up there. Boom, boom, and there's my first couple of panel lines. Another thing too is, and probably because I'm not, maybe there's like hotkeys or that you can use to escape the line function, but I always have to escape line and go back up and do it again. I'm sure there's a better way to do it, but yeah, I'm just not familiar with that yet. I'm doing it probably the very hard way. People who really know Onshape are probably just cringing right now watching this, but so let's continue to draw some more panel lines. We're going to extend this down, and I'm going to let's do some little let's do like a diagonal thing here. Hang on, it's thinking for a second. Didn't really like that, I don't think. Okay, we're going to put like a diagonal here, and I'm going to come up and that, you know what, that's fine. For the sake of this demo, that's fine. Let's put a couple doors, because that's what I did last time. I'm going to put maybe a door here, and we'll put a little panel or a door here, right? And now, so that's what I got. There's my nifty, neat panel lines for that particular side of the part. So another thing I like to do whenever I put like little doors or panels in, I like to fillet the edges. So while we're still on the sketch tool, let's do this real quick because it's gonna annoy me if I don't. I'm gonna come in here, click the edge, and just drag it a little bit. We're gonna fillet it out. Something like, yeah, that's good. And then I just to create that on the other corners, I just select them as well. And now I can drag everything and either make larger or smaller fillets. We'll stick with that. All right, and I also want to fillet this one, this little panel. But in this one, what I'm gonna do something a little different. I'm gonna make these 3 corners here one size, right? But this bottom corner, I'm gonna make it bigger. I'll make it like that. That's just to show, you don't have to make all the fillets the same size, right? And then I'll escape the fillet tool. I like to get rid of these measurements because I just find them annoying. And also, I also like to get rid of these little dots here that are associated with the fillet. You don't always have to, but they just annoy me. So I'm gonna get rid of them. All right, so here's my side, this particular side of this part. Here's my panel lines as I've laid them down. I'm happy with it. I'm just going to go ahead and now expand these. And the way that I go about doing that is I select them, and I come up here to the slot tool, and you'll see it when you first open the slot tool, it's not going to be 0.05. It's 0.05 because I've already been kind of messing around in Onshape, and I've got it set to 0.05 right now. But I think it comes up with like 0.2, so it's going to come up like it's either 0.2 or 2. I think it's 2. So it's going to look like a mess like this. Just double click on it and put 0.05 or whatever size you want. For me, I like 0.05. It works well for my models. It works well with my printers. I just 0.05 to 0.06 depending on the particular part. But whatever you're designing for yourself, it's whatever panel line thickness you like. But just remember, it can't be too small because then it won't register on the printer, on the 3D printer, right? So you're kind of imagining, what's width would it be if you were scribing it, right? If you got the little Tamiya scriber or whatever, or the fine scriber, and you were scribing a piece of styrene, you want to keep it around that size. And I've found for me what works is 0.05 to 0.06. Okay, so let's do. I'm going to escape slot, get rid of this measurement because they annoy me. And then now I'm ready to chisel these panel lines into the side of this part. So the way I'm going to go about doing that is I'm going to exit the sketch. I'm going to hide the part. And the reason I do that is because I don't want it as part of my selection. I don't want it to be in the selection. Because I'm going to do this right here, right? I'm going to select all this. If the part's on, then I end up selecting other aspects of the part that I don't want. So I don't want that. I'm going to remove or hide the part. Select everything that was in the sketch. I'm going to get rid of the negative spaces by just clicking on them again. Okay. And now I've got just the lines and then the slots that were created off those lines to widen them. I've only got that selected, right? Now I can turn that part back on. And I've got 2 ways I can kind of etch these into or chisel these into the part. I can either use extrude remove or thicken remove. I'm going to go ahead and use thicken remove in this case. When it first comes up, it's going to say new. You've got new, add, remove. Make sure up here at the tabs, click remove. And you'll notice the lines are all red right now. They're not doing anything. That's saying that there's an error. Something's wrong. You haven't selected everything. And what it's talking about, or what that's referring to, is down here at the bottom, and you couldn't even see it, right? You got to scroll down a little bit to it, is merge scope. And it's saying, what do you want to merge this thicken with? This thicken remove function with? Well, I want to merge it with this part. So now it's acting on the part. It's acting on that side of the part, but you see it's too deep. It's just, you don't want panel lines that deep. Or maybe you do. If you do, then make them that deep. But I don't want panel lines that deep. So I'm going to go ahead and change it to 0.05. Whoops. Because I want it just as deep as it is wide, right? These panel lines. That looks good. We're going to hit the green check mark. And done. We're done on that flat side. Now I come over here to the cylinder. And the cylinder's different because I don't have a flat side that I can put a sketch on. You can't put a sketch on this, right? It's like, well, sketch what? What are you talking about? So what you have to do here, or what I do here, there's other ways to do it. There's the sheet metal function, and I'm not going to get into that. That's this up here. You'll have to, if you want to learn more about that, you'll have to, do some Onshape tutorials online and find out how that works. But I'm just going to, I have a simple way that I go about doing it when I want to create quick panel lines, and that is I'll select a flat side in reference to that that cylinder that I want to put panel lines onto. I could select the end of it here. I could select this flat side, or maybe even the front of this. I could select the top of this, and I'm actually going to do both. I'm gonna show you. I'm gonna select the end of the cylinder here. First, I'm gonna create a plane, and the plane always starts 2.5 centimeters away from whatever surface that you select. So let's do this. Let's scooch it in. We're gonna drag it right about there, and let's make another one. We're gonna select this time. You know what? This time we'll select here, and we'll create another plane. And actually, that's pretty good right there. All right. And so now I want to slice this. Right now it's all one part. If I hide it, right, one part. So I'm going to select it, and I'm going to come up here to the split tool, and I'm going to select that plane. And you notice we got a line that just developed here. That's because we just sliced it, right? So now we've got two parts. We've got part 1 and part 2. I'm going to do it again with this other plane. I'm going to select this part 1, and I'm going to go up to split, and I'm going to select the plane 2, and there we go. There's our line again. We just split it again. We sliced it. I think they should call it slice. I think that's a better name for it. Let's turn these planes off, and now I'm going to go about a little bit differently. I'm going to a little bit different method to create the panel line look. So I'm going to take this part in between, part 3. I'm going to make it temporarily hidden, and I'm going to come up here to the top toolbar to the chamfer tool, click on chamfer, and then select these edges that bordered with it, right? So right now by default they're 0.15 centimeters, and if I turn that on, you can that piece back on, or that part back on, you can see it's a pretty big gap there. It doesn't match up with these panel lines here. I want it to be the same size. You could have it that way if you want it that way, but I want it to be 0.05, just like the other panel lines. Hit enter. And so now, there you go. Even though when you zoom in on this, how it's got the little angle here, and it doesn't look the same as these panel lines, when you print it out, you can't really tell. It looks almost identical, at least to me, on my printers. I use, so I'm printing mostly on an Elegoo Jupiter 6K and an Elegoo Saturn III, and for all intents and purposes, it looks just the same. So it's not like you're really gonna notice that, because it's 0.05 centimeters, so it's like really small. But if you wanted to, you could come in here on this part, and you could also create a chamfer on this edge. So you got like a little bevel on each side, something like that. I don't want that though. I'm just showing you that you can do that. And so now I've got these two panel lines on the cylindrical portion. I want to put a panel line going perpendicular to that now. So I'm going to select this top. I could also select the bottom too. Doesn't matter. But I'm going to select the top and create another plane off of that. We're going to zoom to the front here. And I should probably show you, this little tool is like really cool because you can drag it around, you know, to look at the part whatever angle you want. If you need to orient yourself to a particular side, you can. If you want to flip it around to another side, you can. If you want to rotate it from any side, you can do that. You can. It's just such a this little cube function here is just so cool. Little 3D cube. So anyway, we're back to the plane. Sorry for the digression. And we're going to come down here. We're going to put, let's put the plane right about there. Okay. And now I want to go ahead and slice through all these parts. I'm going to, or split, sorry. So I'm going to select all my parts. Whoops, let's go to split first. I'm going to select all my parts. I'm going to split it with this plane. And there you go. Everything's been cut, right? So what I want to do is turn off just one side of that split. And I'm going to come back into the chamfer tool. And I'm going to grab these edges here on both sides. And still, because I selected 0.05 earlier, it keeps that dimension in there for this second chamfer function. So now I can turn these back on, and look at that. We got some panel lines there now. Let's turn off this plane. It's annoying. But we have another problem too. We've got the slice or the split running through this piece. I want to make it all one cohesive piece. So all I'm going to do is select everything, come up here to the Boolean function, and this allows you to either subtract, union, or intersect parts. I'm just going to leave it on union. I want to make it all one part. Bam, there we go, one part. And that's it. I've got my panel lines, you know, on this flat surface here. I've got them on the cylindrical portion. You can chop things up and get into more detail, as detailed as you want. You would, you know, continue, you know, adding panel lines to, you know, each of these other sides of the part, each of these other surfaces on the part. What you could do too is like split the part in half. So if I let's turn on front. If I had we're going to make a new plane here. See, I want to chop my ship in half. I can do that. Let's turn this off. I'm going to chop my ship in half, or this little vessel in half, with the split tool. And I'm going to use this plane. And so now I can come into part 2 and I can just delete that. And now I can mirror that. So all that hard work that I did on that side, I can just go up here to mirror. And I want to mirror part 1 on this plane 4. And now look at that. Now I got all that work that I did on the other side. I don't have to reproduce it on the opposite side. It's already there, right? And so I'm going to come in here real quick just to show one more little thing, because I showed it on the previous video and I think it's something worth covering. To give these a little more depth and detail, it's nice to like bubble parts out, like give them like either inset or outset particular panels. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to go ahead and we're going to add to this, and we're going to let it stick out. Let's go point to this particular panel, and then this panel we're going to inset it. we're going to go, and you know what? You can use the thicken, or you can also use, it's probably, in this case, it's easier to use extrude because you got that nifty little arrow, right? But here's the thing. Notice it's fine when I do add, if I come out, but if I go in, to do an inset here, it turns red. Well, one way around that is if you just hit remove. Now it knows you want to remove. You're telling it, hey, that's specifically what I want to do. So, and that red will go away. Anytime you see that red and on shape, that means you did something. Something's either incomplete or you're doing something wrong. So we go back to this outset panel that's kind of bubbling out here, and I'm gonna put a little chamfer on it just to give it some, just to make it a little bit more interesting. Let's go 0.15. There we go. Right, this could be like, maybe it's like a little emergency door or something, right? And then inside of this panel you could put more details. Like one of the things I will do, I will click on that little section in there, I'll put a sketch in there, and then I'll just draw some shapes. Maybe I'll put a circle, I'll put another circle here. And now I can come in and I can inset these even more or make them stick out, right? So maybe I'll make these stick out like they're little, I don't know, some sort of little boxes that do something. But these, notice once you do that too, the sketch goes away. You just have to turn it back on. Right over here, just hide or unhide. And so now I want to make these inset. So let's go extrude, remove, not that much, maybe that much. And now to make things a little more interesting, we're gonna do a chamfer here. Let's, maybe not that much, maybe 0.1. Yeah, there we go. And then maybe, who knows, maybe we chamfer this edge and this edge. And all that does is it gives the light more angles to kind of bounce off, And you could take it even further. Now you can select this piece and put another sketch on that. And so now you're going to add another little. It's kind of like if you were working with styrene, and you're cutting like little strip styrene, and you want to like to give it more depth. You want to like glue another little tiny little piece of stripped styrene on top of another piece, just to make it look more visually interesting. So we'll do this too. We'll make this kind of stick off of there a little bit. And that's all you got to do. You just kind of play with the details. I come in here and I'm like, you know what, this isn't working for me, this squared off edge. So I'm gonna put a fillet on here. You can also do the fillet on an edge like that just by click on fillet, and does that look? Let's look at it from the side here. Yeah, that works for me. Right? So now we're just giving a little more depth, a little more detail to the ship, and obviously the changes that you made here, they're not here on the other side, right? So you would just have to turn that. You would have to, if you made changes like that, you would have to turn that plane back on and do another split function and then mirror it again to mirror the changes that you just made. But it saves you a lot of time by mirroring like that. So hopefully this has been helpful for you and showing you how I how I go about adding more detail and panel lines to my spaceships. If you have any questions, feel free to put them in the comments. And thanks for listening. Appreciate it.